Alright, here is issue 4 of Legends. The crossover that is really an advertisement for Suicide Squad and Justice League International and a bunch of other books coming soon from DC Comics. It has an all-star creative team and some great characters featured, but it has never been much of a story. It is a crossover, but it's not a crossover story. There are ideas in there, but it's more like those ideas have been stuck together, and they hope you didn't notice that there's not really a story underneath it all. It did, however, introduce a lot of new things into the DC universe. Mainly, it was the first appearance of Suicide Squad, but we also got Blue Beetles and Captain Marbles, the real one, Biffy Baston. Please do not spam this video telling me about Smelly Brie Lawson's and Dr. Walter Lawson. Here is something I like more. Canary. And for better or worse, a new costume, which I like. The general consensus has always been that this was a bad costume. But the last few years, I have been pleased to see the tides slightly change. And there is a small amount of people not afraid to say they like this one. This has always been, in my eyes, more appropriate for Canary the superhero. This is a superhero costume. Don't get us wrong, who doesn't love the leather jacket and the fishnet stockings? But this felt like it made her not look so out of place on the Justice League. I also want to take a moment again to remind you that the woman who plays her, one of her, shit, I can never remember her name. It is something like Callie Lutz. She is like the perfect woman. She has got abs for days, and she is still incredibly feminine. I think she played January Jones's niece in Mad Men. Now there's a pair that could really test my anti-incest agenda. They're not related. In real life, they're not related. It was just the characters. I can still fantasize about it as long as they are not the characters. I do fucking love Betty though. This is another one that this crossover set up. Wonder Woman. A new series by Jorge Perez was coming out. And we have the go nowhere scenes of Darkseid and Pantsless Stranger having some patter. We did get to see them a bit more in the Superman tie-in issues, which I will review. They will be next. They take place in between issues 4 and 5 of the main series. And since we have talked almost entirely about hot women, Canary, Wonder Woman, a threesome with Callie Lutz and January Jones. Let me throw into the mix that Jason Burns-Lewis is another winner from the DC Comic Book Company. The structure of this and of many DC crossovers, summit that I call the DC crossover style, is we get vignettes showing characters react to events or how it affects them, and it feels like an advert for their tie-in comic. But then more often than not, their tie-in issue won't actually expand on the scene you see. Like here we have Batman fighting Jokers, and believe it or not, his tie-in issue doesn't feature Jokers at all. Instead, Batman, he fights Madge Pie from Superman comics. And this issue, more than any other, really is what I have said most these issues have been. I have described them as advertisements. That's what this is. We are just getting 2 to 3 page samplers of characters like Green Lanterns, the Gary Gardner version, and Blue Beetles. He fights Immortus. No sandwiches though. Next is Dr. Fates. He ends up being quite pivotal to the resolution of this series. Then Summit, a bit more meaty. We have the aftermath of Suicide Squad's first mission. Suicide Squad are definitely the ones who are most developed in Legends. And it's not really much of a surprise considering the writer of Legends is going to be writing their ongoing series. This bit here, do you know that scene in the film? The bit where RoboCop 2014, he turns off the bombs inside their heads and he says they are free to go. And then Boomerang immediately leaves. That is actually straight from this scene. That was something I think the first Suicide Squad movie didn't get credit for. There were bits taken directly from the comics. And I much prefer that to the Marvel approach of reluctantly taking 1 or 2 broad themes and that is it. I always thought Suicide Squad, it would have been better if that scene, if after that, Boomerang didn't show up again until right at the end when you find out he has been thrown back in prison and is being punished. I also hated what happened to him in Suicide Squad 2. The Flask, he is another one who has been established here for future projects. Willie West, he had become the Flask, and he will be getting his first solo series as the Flask. After this, we get to see him fight Boomerang for a bit, and then they get interrupted by Darkseid's werewolves. Shrek Boy is there too, but you're meant to forget he is part of this story, because DC certainly did when it came time to spin the new Justice League introduced in this off into their own series. There is Jeremy Ordinary. It is coming, the big thing that I promised. It is coming, and it is just a comic that Jeremy Ordinary did recently that is outstanding. And neatly enough, here is a direct lead in to the Superman issues. 3-part Superman story where Superman gets Moondragon. You already know I love it, and I've fantasized over it a lot. Moondragon is the word that I came up with to describe the very specific type of sexual violation perpetrated by a beautiful woman upon a man, which I wrongly am incredibly wishful would happen to me. I have thought of that now. I need to wrap this up quick so I can go and bash off. This is another issue of Legends. It's probably the weakest one, or maybe the second weakest one. It is definitely the one that feels the least like an actual story. So I'll give it 7 thumbs up.